DoneGood, Forbes called this the Amazon for good. So it's a online shopping platform where you can find all sorts of products, from clothing to home goods to self-care products to food and coffee. But you know that every one of those purchases is doing good for people on the planet, because every brand that sells on our platform, we screen to make sure that they're paying living wages, producing in safe workplaces, not using child or trafficked labor, and fighting climate change with eco-friendly practices. We do that because we believe we're working on helping people unleash what we believe can be the world's most powerful force for change, and that's the dollars we all spend. I used to work in politics. That's my background. I worked on Capitol Hill in DC, was communications director for a couple senators. Americans gave $400 billion to charity last year, which is a huge amount. And again, also many nonprofits doing very important work, very important. I hope people give more. But while we gave $400 billion to all the nonprofits, we spent 325 times more than that buying stuff. And so for those of us who care about social environmental justice, we've got to be addressing that mountain of resources that is our consumer spending. Imagine if just a fraction, small fraction of that spending, we're talking tens of trillions of dollars, if that spending could also reduce global poverty and fight climate change while we're getting the things that we need to buy, imagine the impact that could have. And so that's what we do. But then, in order to get more, the number of conscious consumers is growing. People are more aware of the impact, the immense impact that their spending has. And that's, we say, it may very well be the number one way you impact the planet and other people, impact the world, is who you decide to give your money to. Because when you give them money, you're helping them do more of whatever it is they're doing. If they're perpetuating supply chains built on global poverty and human trafficking and destroying environmental degradation, then we get more of that. Meanwhile, if consumers demand products made with living wages and eco-friendly practices, we get more of that. So, but to get more consumers to make that better choice more of the time, you have to make it super easy. And so that's what we work to do. So we have our online marketplace where you can shop like you shop on Amazon. That's in short what we do and why we do it, and why I quit my career to do this of all things, because I really believe that over the course of this next century, this, the conscious consumer movement, the business for good movement, this is going to be I think it's the most important ideological shift we need to make away from the old 20th century Milton Friedman model that says businesses should maximize profit at all costs. The genesis of all this, back when I was in college, so we're talking turn of the century, like 99 to 03, I was involved in a number of progressive campus organizations, and one that I ended up getting in the national leadership of was called United Students Against Sweatshops. That was kind of this first wave of awareness and activism around supply chains that were discovering what really was behind a lot of the stuff that we were buying here in the States and everywhere. So we would get our universities to implement a code of conduct that said any company who wanted to bid to get the contract to make the university's licensed apparel had to have a code of conduct in place. If you can land a big state school and you can make all the licensed apparel that has that school's logo on it, that's a huge amount of money. But so that code of conduct said anyone who wants to bid has to be able to demonstrate that you're paying above poverty wages, that you have basic safety measures in place, that you're not using child labor, and essentially that you're not going to make our school's products, our school's clothing, in sweatshop conditions. And so that was really exposure to the power of consumerism to create social change, and then in a way that impacts people's lives. And so I said, well, if you can get a bunch of individual consumers together, that has the same impact, and this could be revolutionary and world changing. So that's back at turn of the century, before there was B Corp or social impact was a word or anything like that. Then after school, I started this career. I got a job in politics. And then as it happens, you get a job, you get another job. Next thing you know, you've got a career and you've had some years going. But I always had this idea that I wanted to do something to help galvanize the power of consumer demand to make an impact. So finally, in 2014, my buddy decided to go to grad school, and he got into the Harvard Kennedy School. We applied with the idea, just an idea for DoneGood, to the Harvard Innovation Lab. We knew we had to get into e-commerce.
I just wanted to find out, Cullen, that the partners that you're working with, the process of onboarding them, do you find that there is a lot of training that you need to provide before you onboard them?
first we have to do an impact screening. We have a lot of incoming demand to get on the platform. A lot of brands applying. So we have an initial application. We also reach out strategically to brands that we want to work with. Once they get to that point, that we have an application that they fill out. We look at whether they have other certifications. If they happen to be B Corp certified, or they have other combinations of certifications, that can help speed up our process a little bit. But basically then we're looking at their application, and then we're talking with them about their social and environmental impact.